Welcome to Entrepreneurial Insights, a podcast brought to you by the Society of Entrepreneurs and hosted by Pearson Crutcher and Jay Healy. The Society of Entrepreneurs is a membership organization founded to promote entrepreneurship and provide education and resources to Memphis business owners.
In this podcast, we'll have a series of interviews with accomplished business owners and entrepreneurs in Memphis, Tennessee. There are so many great entrepreneurs in Memphis, and their stories need to be told.
Welcome to Entrepreneurial Insights.
I'm excited about this presentation. When we were talking about doing it, we said that we really wanted it to be very informal so that you can ask questions, because this is a very important topic. So we do have, like I mentioned, unfortunately, Leta Nutt was not able to be here today, who has NuttBio, the company, and participated in our next big thing, pitch competition, for developed a relationship with Carolyn Hardy. So we wanted them to talk about that. Is this obnoxious? Yeah. Okay. Thank you for your honesty. My voice is much better than that, right? So Carolyn, just talk really loud.
Yes, I will.
Spoken. So when the water runs, everybody say, talk louder, okay? So I wanted it to be informal so that you could ask questions. And then when I talked to Leta this morning and she was feeling bad, I said, well, can Jan step in? And she said, absolutely. So I said, okay. And then I was talking to McDonald, who's the mentor extraordinaire. So I was like, okay, you too. So we have not one, not two, but three presenters today with a list of questions. I'm going to get them to all start. So do y'all want to come up here now? Mary, Carolyn, and Jan, welcome. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
I have to say, both Carolyn and Mary have been past chairmen of the board of the Society of Entrepreneurs. So I've had the pleasure of working with both of them. I'm going to sit over here and I'll ask questions from this way. So they've definitely become mentors to me. And I just want to say first, thank you so much for that personally, that I know that I can call them for advice and guidance, and that means the world to me. I asked them each to kind of just give a little overview of who they are, and then we'll go into the questions about mentoring. But what I really want to do is, can you start and talk about how Leta, who today, he looks like Leta, right? Okay, so, but can you share a little bit about that?
No, absolutely. So being there from the very beginning, I obviously saw how NuttBio came to be. And so Leta's a very gifted scientist. She worked at St. Jude before she started NuttBio. And one of the things that we kind of started noticing when we first came to Memphis in 2009 was that there's a large overpopulation of stray animals, cats, dogs, and she at some point decided she wanted to use her scientific background to try and help solve that problem, and started really looking for solutions in specifically the cat and dog market, but realized there's not a lot of money there. And me being the business mentor for her, saying, if you cannot make money, there's no business. And what we don't need is another nonprofit. So, so we started looking at other fields and stumbled upon the pork market, and really switched to that, started learning about that market, etc., and found that all male piglets get castrated in their first week of life. So that was a great market really to target for this solution. So to do basically non-surgical sterilization for any type of animal, but initially in the pork market.
And so I met Leta at the next big thing, and we just started talking informally. And then she said, do you mind, Carolyn, if we set up a Zoom call?
Do you want to sit?
And I said, sure. I said, let's chat. Because, when you look at that type of technology that she's working on, she's going to need manufacturing and so on. And so those things are in my background. And so we would just set up a Zoom call, and we would talk about any topic that she had on her agenda. But at the same time, keep in mind, Leta is a scientist. And so one of the products that we sell, one of our brands is called Rally, which is enhanced water for dogs. And Rally is all about gut health. So Leta, as a PhD, as we're talking about Rally, and we're talking about her project. So in this case, this was both of us bringing something to the table. And that's unusual with the mentor-mentee, but she has been extremely helpful in me working on my brand because sometimes the importance of mentor-mentee is your network, your relationships. And Leta brought another PhD to the table who specializes in gut health. And so she wrote up a trial for me so that I could sit down with either UT or the local vet school and talk through, here's a trial, do you want to go through this clinical trial? So in our case with Leta, is that we're there for each other. Yep. So we have a different relationship. I'm not a PhD scientist. I'm a CPA, okay? So I know numbers, I know manufacturing, but she knows scientists. And what I do, scientists are invaluable because when you're putting a beverage out there, it's all about credibility and what you're selling to the consumer. Because, there's a lot of snake oil out there. And so how do you validate that what you're trying to offer to the consumer actually delivers the value that you're talking about? So our mentor-mentee relationship is almost, it depends on whose turn it is.
Symbiotic.
That's exactly. Some days it's her turn, some days it's my turn. But my background, I just talked a little bit about it, is beverages. Of course, I do real estate development, which is, most people don't know, is probably my most successful business in terms of what I do. And we also own an MRO company, which is maintenance, repair, and operating supply. And we're one of the 2 Snyder distributors in the United States that are minorities. There's only 2, one in Atlanta and the one here in Memphis. So we do unique things. So a little bit about it. My background started with Smuckers, then went to Coors. So I have had a very interesting career. Plant manager, then vice president for Coors. A lot of stories about mentors and mentees. So when we get to that, I'll share some of those stories. So I'll turn it over to Mary.
Thank you. And when Pearson asked me to speak a little bit about the mentoring, and Carolyn told me about her relationship, I thought to myself, the first thing that everyone needs to think about when they are either mentoring or are being mentored is first seek to understand. And when Carolyn was talking about that, and you were saying how you were the business person and your wife was a scientist, nobody has all the answers for everybody's questions. So you find those people in your life, whether you marry them or you just know them or meet them, that can fill in the gaps that you have. And so even though there was a scientific bent to this, there's also a business bent to this. And then there's a connection that furthers the whole business relationship. So first, to seek to understand the other person, and I guess that's what I've been trying to do for years, decades. And in my latest venture, which I think you should reinvent yourself about every 10 years anyway.
I do it every 5.
Oh, okay. She's a lot faster than I am. But in my latest venture, which I started a business about 10 years ago, that was a consulting, mostly in education. Then we expanded to a business division. And now we have a presence in 34 states and about 98 cities. So it just grows. So it's right at that time where I've just begun to reinvent myself again. And so I have another new venture that is going to launch pretty soon.
Well, I want to share something with you. This is one of my books, Step Out. And I'm reading from chapter 18. And 3 people will win books today. I have 3 that I told Pearson I would share. But one of my favorite quotes is from Oprah Winfrey. Of course, everybody knows she's an actress, a writer, TV personality, businesswoman. She wrote that a mentor is someone who allows you to see the hope inside yourself. A mentor is someone who allows you to know that no matter how dark the night is, in the morning the joy will come. A mentor is someone who allows you to see the higher part of yourself when sometimes it becomes hidden from your own view. In other words, there's somebody that sees the best side of you that you just can't see for some reason, okay? You think that, I'm really struggling and it'll never happen. And if there's 10 things that needs to be right, they see 7, okay? And their goal is to help you see those 7. And they're going to do it in really creative ways. Just telling you that you're beautiful, that you're bright, that you're good. That doesn't get it, okay? A mentor needs to help you see why you're very bright at this sector, at this thing. Example with Layla, with her scientific brain and her ability to really understand castration. That's really important because she's going into a sector that is all business driven. And so she understands right off the bat that she has to have both sides. She has to truly understand the science and the benefit, but she also has to understand the business and what are some of the challenges that she's going to be up against. And so when you start realizing that and is willing to accept input from the outside, that is really important. But now I'm going to tell my pet peeve right now before I don't want the time to run out before I tell my pet peeve. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and throw it out there. I've been mentoring for years, and there's different types of mentoring. Everybody thinks a mentoring relationship is a long-term relationship. That's not always the case. I've mentored people on a one situation. They've come to me and they had something going on in their life that was rather complicated. And they just need someone to work through that particular chapter, okay? So work them through it, use my network to get them to where they wanted to go, got them there, got them exactly to where they wanted to go, okay? Probably a year or two later, had another young lady come to me, and she was in the same field. Well, if you come to me with marketing, I am not a marketer. I'm a CPA. So
wow, that's why I've got that microphone.
Okay. I'll speak loud. I'm not a marketer. So what I try to do in that situation, I try to put that person with the best of the best. My best village, okay? Because I want them to have a great outcome. My problem was the person wouldn't pay it forward. And that bothered me because I understand I don't have all the skill sets you need, but a good mentor will use their connections who has those skill sets to get you what you need. Okay. The only thing that we ask is that if you're mentoring someone and you're taking the benefits of that, when it's your turn, I will rarely come and ask you for anything, but I will ask you to help someone else. And so that's my pet peeve. So I got it out. I'm done. I'm done with that.
That is very important. Well, I've got a couple of questions, and then we do want to take questions from y'all after too. But how can somebody identify a potential mentor in their field of interest? How do they identify them? Would you say?
Well, I heard someone say they're in transportation, 3PL, right. If I was looking for a mentor in that space, I would look for someone who's larger and more successful, who has a pretty diverse portfolio of business. And the reason I say a diverse portfolio of business, because from a 3PL standpoint, that portfolio of business is going to do different logistic needs. It's not going to all look the same. And she's going to want a broader portfolio, because when you're going out calling on a customer, you try to anticipate what they need, but you don't always know everything, but you've got to be prepared to answer that question. So if you've got a mentor who's got a broader portfolio, you may know this part, but they can help you with this part, and they can help take you to the next level. So look for someone that's in your field, but maybe it's at a different level than where you are right now.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and I think in addition, like Epicent has a mentor network that they are launching just about now. I think they've done some beta testing. So that brings you into a room where people, they're willing to be mentors. So that's I think, already taking a big barrier away. After that, it's still hard work to build that relationship and the trust and the vulnerability. Because it's like going to a shrink. If you're not open to being vulnerable, it's not going to work. And I think it's the same if you want to be a mentee. You've got to share. You've got to show those gaps and allow them to be filled. But then Leta's been very successful. She's one of the few scientists, I'd say, that is an extreme extrovert, even though she denies it. So she's on LinkedIn all the time. To her, it's like Facebook now. She's finding the people that she wants to get to know. She'll shoot up 20 requests, get 19 rejections, and one yes, sure, let's talk. And so she just does the kind of shotgun approach when it comes to that. But she's had some great success where once you get to talk to her, everybody wants to know her because it's fun to hang out with Leta, right? But she's just gone out there and be vulnerable and be ready for the rejection.
And I think that vulnerability is very important because for the first time in our history, we have five at least 5 generations in the workplace or in entrepreneurship. And it doesn't matter what generation you're in, you are still like moving businesses and building companies and whatever. And so I've been recognizing this more and more over the last 10 years. And so a couple months ago, we started a podcast, myself and 2 other people who are in different generations. And it's called Gen's Lens, Generations, How They See Things. And so, and then we invite people in other generations on for guests. But what has been so amazing was how much, just having been vulnerable to learning something, how much I have learned from the Gen Zs, who are now the tool belt generation. I think they just got that name. And they learn from me. I think I'm the silent generation, but I do have a lot to say. But from the boomers and the Xers and everything. And instead of labeling those people just to learn from all of them. And so it makes a stronger workplace. It makes a stronger business. It makes a stronger network if you don't just go to people that are doing the same thing you're doing or in the same age that you are.
You know, I think most people are willing to be mentors if you are willing to be flexible. I had someone that needed my advice and they canceled 3 times. I didn't take their calls anymore or their emails. I don't have time for that, okay? I didn't have time to mentor them, but to cancel 3 times, so they were out. So, you know, understand what your schedule is and make yourself available to them, okay? And understand you're going to have to give more than the person you're asking to give, okay? They can't give more than you. This is something that you need.
Right. One thing, I know Yana said something about LinkedIn as a place to find them, but what other ways would you say, and Epicenter also, if they have the new program coming out, what other ways would you say?
I think networking. I think go out there and network.
Come to things like this.
That's exactly. Yeah, and you meet people, and then all of a sudden you see, oh my God, she does this. I had a lady that I met at Next Big Thing, and she was having some manufacturing issues. And she just had, and so this particular one, she only had a couple of questions. And so she emailed me. I said, sure, I'll talk to you about it. And most people don't know how to protect their product formula. And so all she needed was instruction and directions on how to protect her formula. But to your point, she came to that Next Big Thing, she met some people, and then when she needed that person, she'd already met them. So networking is absolutely critical, coming to things like this.
Mary, do you have any thoughts or other ways?
I agree with you with the networking. And I was just thinking of the Next Big Thing, the last one. And the people who I met there, and I took my grandson with me because he's real interested in entrepreneurship. And he met somebody there who was doing some sort of race car testing. And so he followed up right away with that person and he got to drive the test car. And it's like, now he wants to be a race car driver. Not going to happen.
Well, we don't know whether it was good or bad.
No,
right?
It's not good. Well, they meet people.
Yeah. Another great source, I think, is podcasts. Right? You have one, so you have one. Several people here probably have one, and they tend to be pretty specific on certain topics. So find one that you like to listen to anyway. And everybody likes flattery, so pick the person that was the guest speaker, and then reach out to them saying, "Hey, heard your podcast, was inspired by what you said." And that's already, I think, a great step towards them saying, okay, I'll talk to that person. They know who I am. They like what I say. And I'll
Flattery gets you
everywhere. That's right. Yeah.
And I will also put in a little plug is that Leta did do a podcast for the Society of Entrepreneurs on our Entrepreneurial Insights. So since you don't get her here, take the time to listen to the podcast. It was really, really wonderful, and it's a really cool company. You just can go to our website, S5E8 Memphis, and it's on the front page, so you can find it from there. So what would you say are some strategies to building a strong mentor-mentee relationship? I think showing up is obvious, but important. What other advice would you give?
I really do think listening is the best thing you can do. Not to assume you know the person's problem and their solution. Just listening to them and what they are saying, what they need. not what you hear, but what they say. I think that's really critical.
You know, I always try to understand the person who wants me to mentor them. You know, I had a young lady who I'd never met. A judge sent me a letter saying that this young lady is having a hard time getting back to where she needs to be. She had graduated from college, but her mother had passed, and she was rather young, and she couldn't get her career going again. And rather than me just taking the opportunity to try to work with her, I said, we need to meet for coffee. And so I really wanted to get to know the person. I wanted to know her and who she really was, what's in her heart, and where was she trying to go. I'm not trying to take you where I want to go. I need to understand where you're trying to go. So you're right, listening and paying attention. So you'll find maybe the first session or so is more really trying to get to know you. And so that listening is really important. And listening is important on both sides. Yeah.
What do you do? Because it does happen, and I've had a situation that I can think of where the relationship doesn't work, and and maybe that person's giving you advice that you're like, oh, I don't know if that's going to work for me. What's the best way to handle that too?
I think you thank them for their services and say, look, I think I got what I need. You need to bow out gracefully, okay? In business, because you don't know when you're going to return and need that person for something else.
Right.
Yeah, I tell people, I'm going to go in there and quit. I'm going to tell them what I think. Are you sure you're going to do that? I would caution you on that, okay? Because, you know, you may need them for something else. And so bow out gracefully. Leave the door open. You know, in my other book, I said, don't leave dead bodies. That's a situation where I call leaving dead bodies. Do not do that, okay? Bow out gracefully. You know, don't waste their time. Don't waste your time.
Mary, that's great advice. Mary, anything?
Most people who mentor really want to mentor. You know, and most people who are entrepreneurs want to share their story and tell people how they did it and help somebody else. I just find that that's part of the psyche of somebody who is a mentor. They just want to teach, you know, they want to teach what they learned. And just listening to them, if it doesn't work out, I mean, it's not like a divorce. I mean, it's like you're in a relationship and people come and go in your lives. And I think they come and go for a reason. And what is that, a reason, a season, or a lifetime? Mostly it's a reason. Mostly it's a reason. The lifetime ones are not that many. Right. But they come for a reason, and maybe you're the reason, or maybe they're the reason for you. So, yeah, just be available.
No, I think that the main thing to do is if it isn't working, definitely bow out gracefully, but bow out. Don't waste each other's time.
Right.
Well, I've got several other questions that I can ask, but do you want to ask a question? Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so if you're looking for a mentor and let's say you reach out to someone, what are some key things to listen for when you're having that cup of coffee to see if they are a good mentor? Maybe they've not mentored before. I'm interested, but are they really going to latch on to being a mentor?
Well, you're asking the question. I think transparency in everything you do is absolutely critical. So when they're sitting down, be honest. Is this the one time I just have a question, like I shared with the person who had the issue on manufacturing and just needs a little bit of hand-holding? Do you need a long-term relationship? And then what are you looking for? You should have given it a lot of thought before you call that meeting. Right. I ask people, don't come in and waste my time, okay? Right. If you're trying to launch a business venture, don't ask me to write your business plan, okay? You need to do that. Yeah. And so, make sure you thought it through, because you probably know me. That's why you called me for lunch, okay? You know my background. And so you know some of the things I've done. So you know more about me than you think. But I don't know anything about you. Right. And so that conversation is going to be more about you, but be prepared in a very succinct way to share where you are and where you're trying to go.
Mm-hmm. Anybody else have any questions right now? Well, I think that as a mentor, how can I assess and support the specific needs of my mentor? So that's, I think, what you were just talking about, is the time that's going to be involved and everything.
And, guys, being a mentor is not as easy as you think. Because, you've got to be truthful to that person that's sitting across from you. This person that I was mentoring, we come into the restaurant, we sat down, and she started talking, and I said, okay, let's start right there. I said, you look like crap. Let's start with that, okay? Whatever is going on in your life, you're announcing it to the world. And I said, you need to stop because I can't get you where you want to go unless you can get that game face back on. You can't come in whooped. Okay, where this person was trying to go couldn't take a whoop look. Okay, I told her, I need to put your makeup back on, get it on, find a way to get that smile back up. Okay, work on your own mind. A lot of times we have to pull ourselves out of that hole. And so I told her, pull yourself out. Okay, let's get it up. And I tell you what, the next time we got to lunch again, she came in, she had a pep in her step, and I said, that's the person that somebody's going to hire at that level position, not the one that I saw a week ago. And so, so you've got to be honest. And a lot of times, say, well, am I going to hurt their feelings? No, you're wasting their time.
I think, too, it's really important to hold people accountable. Otherwise, nothing will happen. And a mentee does not work for the mentor, so you can't fire them, but you can sort of let them go. But to give them something to shoot for the next meeting. And, if they don't do it, then ask them, are you really serious? Like you say, you're wasting my time. But if you don't hold people accountable, then nothing will happen. And I don't mean, in a threatening way, but if this is what you say you're going to do, then let's see you start doing it.
Funny story, Archer Malmo started my first company. And I needed someone to mentor me on a strategic plan. And so I called Phil Teneri, and I said, Phil, I need Archer Malmo to mentor me on this one strategy. He said, Carolyn, Archer charges a lot of money. I said, did he just do a plan for you guys? I said, yeah. I said, what'd you guys pay? He said, nothing. I said, well, let's let them do that one more time. Just one more time, okay? And so set the meeting up and at the chamber. And now, so I had a week to prepare. I read every book that he put out. I read every strategic plan that he put out there. So when and then I changed my strategic plan to bake in everything I read about his, because I wanted the best out of this hour. I wanted the best. I didn't want him to tell me what was in chapter 1 of his first book. I want him to see I already got chapter 1. It's already in the plan. Okay. I need your idea that's not in your book as it applies to my venture. Okay. He was blown away, but I did the homework. I didn't expect Archer to read all of his books to me. I expected him to understand that I did my homework. And you know what? He stayed there for 2 hours because he said, oh my God, you did your homework. He said, I totally agree with your short-term plan. He said, here's some adjustments we can make to the long-term. But he saw in my short-term plan, I had taken his books and baked it into the plan. But you, as the mentee, you need to demonstrate to the mentor that you are serious. Back to what you said, okay? And you demonstrate that by coming in prepared. Okay, I'll shut up.
No, I think that's interesting because it reminds me of a situation, because for the society, we obviously have a lot of people that are forming relationships with our members. And I had one of our, somebody come to me and say they wanted to talk to a member, which I can do, not the same person all the time, but spread out. And she called me back and she had her feelings hurt because she'd asked this person to tell, she was looking at a new website and basically he shot it down and was like, this is not, you're going the wrong direction. And so I guess what I want to say is that, you got to be vulnerable, but you also might not hear what you want to hear. Right. You might not hear you look like crap.
That's right.
But, when you think about it and you go back, it's probably important that it was said,
right,
know.
It really is, yeah.
You just got to be vulnerable and know that it might not be all.
Well, and you have to know, and you have to know that person that way. I knew this person that way,
right,
that I could be that direct. This was not our first meeting, so I could, So she expected me to be Carolyn. Okay, just come in and tell me what you got to tell me. Okay, but you're right though, and I hear bad ideas, and I struggle with that. I really do. I've heard some ideas like, "Oh my God," and so somebody's gonna lose their grandmama's money. Okay. So what I try to do, I try to get them to think it through. Okay, who are your competitors? Okay, and how big is the market? So I try to ask you leading questions so that hopefully, I try to help. And they say, well, the market is only, let's say it's $2 million. Well, is that really, that market's not big enough for you to go after. So if I can get you to answer some questions, I can lead you there. Because when your heart is into something, it's really hard as a mentor for me to get you out of it. It really is.
I'm not proud of this, by the way, but what I did hear back from a couple of mentors that bothered them was that I didn't follow up and tell them how they helped. Ouch. I mean, it was hard to hear, but that was a huge gap for me. They wanted to know the rest of the story, and I didn't give them that. So I just feel like I would love for you to learn from my pain.
Well, and you know, that's interesting you say that, because you and I had talked about a problem you had.
I love you.
She had a problem a few years ago, and we talked about with someone she was mentoring. And, we talked about the book and how it would help and so on. And she did follow up and say, Carolyn, it did work. So she gave me feedback. And that feedback was very helpful. So, no, you're right. And we rarely get feedback, though. Yeah. So you're right. Good point.
I would say that as somebody that is the person that connects people, the one thing that when I have people that do follow up, that send a thank you note, that is such an easy way to do. And people, a handwritten, not, just a text or an email, but send them a thank you note. Thank you for your time. Those are people that, first of all, they're going to be willing to do it again for somebody else. But they're always going to remember that you did that. So I think those are the people that I have the most success. Maybe they want to talk to somebody else. And when I get a call back from Mike Bruns, oh my gosh, I got a thank you note, this was so great, or whatever, then, I'm willing to help that person maybe again later on too. So,
and I'm even happy with an email. I mean, it's amazing how many times you get silence and nothing.
Right.
So it doesn't have to be handwritten.
That's right.
5-minute text.
Same here.
I'm kind of old school, You probably get rid of me. So, but does anybody else have any questions? I think it's a very important topic. So, nobody has any questions? I just want to say also from personal experience recently, my daughter's 28. She's thinking about a career transition. And she was talking and she was like, I don't know how to do this. What should I do? And I said, just this person that you admire, I think we've kind of talked about this. I said, just tell them that you really like her work. She was thinking about interior design. And I said, tell them how much that you enjoy what they do and that you just love to chat and explore options. And she, stressed out about it. This was Monday because I was driving home from the eclipse when she was calling me about it. She got an email back the next day, and the lady was so excited and has got a team coming in to have lunch with her. She's got her business degree. She's not an interior decorator, but it just shows how flattering. I mean, she was like, I really think this is so cool what you're doing. So she was like, that was so easy. So I think a lot of times we feel like when we're going to make the ask, we stress about it. We don't want to, and just take the step, just do it. Because I think you find out that people are receptive to that. Flattery gets you pretty far, doesn't it? So anybody else have anything else? This is y'all's opportunity. You've got mentors right here to ask the questions to. But
no, I don't have any answer questions, but you're wondering why these chairs are here.
Because I wanted y'all to sit down. But
I can see better.
This is kind of like a mentor thing. When you sit in a chair to be mentored, somebody's always standing behind you. We got your back.
There you go.
That's a nice one.
Nice clothes. The clothes are... She's the closer.
Here's the closer. She always is. I'm sorry. No, go ahead. One more question.
So is there any concern when let's say you have someone that's already in the industry and they're 10 times bigger than you are, or 5 times, about sharing your idea or being swallowed up by them or having them take over what you're doing?
Yes, I mean, I think as an entrepreneur, you should always be paranoid about protecting your idea and your intellectual property, and that's why you don't. I think the first thing is like, hey, I'm Jan. Would you like to be my mentor? You first have to build that relationship, and you don't need to divulge everything you're doing in the first coffee meeting.
Right.
Okay. Good point.
And see if you think that's a person you can trust. And I've signed NDAs if I feel I can help you, and if you have to tell secrets and they're not willing to sign an NDA, they're probably not the right person.
Okay.
Well, the first thing I ask people not to tell me their secrets, okay? Seriously, that's the best way to keep a secret. I had a young lady come to me. She was wanted to get into real estate development, and I do real estate development. And so when she told me that was the topic, I shared with her that I do real estate development. Okay, so I'm fully transparent. And she told me the type of real estate that she was developing. Well, I don't develop that type. So I was honest with her. I said, no, I would never touch that type of real estate. Now, that's probably the advice I need to give her. She shouldn't touch it either, okay? So I did the questioning thing for her, okay, to make sure that she wanted to go there. I helped her understand the risk associated with it and so on. So there was a reason I didn't touch that type. So the exchange was helpful. But you're right, though, a good mentor who has integrity is going to tell you up front, hey, I don't need to know all that, okay?
So come prepared with your questions rather than your information.
Right.
So that you can ascertain.
And know yourself.
Yes.
Know where you're trying to go. Yeah.
Thank you.
Okay.
Okay, and you said you have some books to give away.
Yes,
so
I'll
let's be creative of how we can give those books away. All
I can
right,
keep this.
whose birthday is the soonest? When is your birthday?
April 25th.
Oh, that's
Mine was
recent.
March 29th. Which one's closer?
Well, I guess that gives me two questions. Melissa gets one, and so do you.
There you go. Can we just water? Okay. There you go. You're welcome.
And then, okay, this is how we're going to do the next one. Lisa, who's the 7th person on the check-in list?
Oh,
that's a good way.
yeah.
Well, it's Melissa, so.
Okay. The next question.
Okay.
Okay, no, Greg, next question.
Suzanne.
So, right, Suzanne, from right. All right,
Oh, okay.
very good. Thank you.
Oh, you're welcome. Yes. Enjoy.